The story of Adam will be the theme of the theme of the day. So thanks for being here, Adam.
Hey, no problem at all. Glad to be here.
So, like we said, I got to know you through a separate kind of coaching group that we were involved with, and of course you've been through Strong First, and but don't let me butcher your background. Go ahead and give us the story of you. How did you come to be here on the podcast today?
Well, it was a warm winter day back in 1981. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, as you know, these things are not really linear, and my fitness background isn't typical for most trainers out there. My background isn't in fitness at all. Never played a sport in high school. I've always been physically active, and I started working when I was like maybe 10, like working with my dad. And I've always used my skills and physicality to do work, as far as like labor work, technical work, things that wouldn't, that I could use my hands and use my body to get the job done. I was an HVAC tech before getting into fitness. I was a general contractor. I was a carpenter. I was a commercial plumber. I was a heavy equipment mechanic. I've done a lot of technical things, but I always relied on my job to keep me physical. And then as I was progressing in my career, the further I would go, the more technical it would get and the less physical it would get. So I started getting out of shape doing more technical jobs and less on the physical. And I started hitting the gym and getting myself back into shape. Went through the typical, bodybuilding splits and went through the typical bodybuilding splits, and I found deadlifts, and then I just wanted to lift all the weight. And I went through that progression for some years, and then I found a book by Pavel. I can't remember which one it was, about kettlebells. And I thought it was cool, but not like bread and butter, like type of things. I would just use it to supplement my deadlifting because I love deadlifting so much. I ended up weighing like my heaviest was like 260. And I was strong, like I was great in the gym, but outside of the gym I was completely useless. Completely useless, and I knew I was doing something wrong, like because I just wasn't feeling good as much as I was training. So fast forward a little bit, I was reading some more Pavel stuff, reading some other fitness things, and then found Strong First. I don't remember exactly where it all started, but I did end up going to a bodyweight course held by Karen Smith, and that kind of changed everything in how I trained. And I went all in on the kettlebells. Well, I went to the bodyweight course to understand strength training more, just using my body. And then I started focusing more on kettlebells and got certified the following year. And then, it just changed the way I trained. Changed the way I trained.
May I ask, what was the big change between training the kind of bodybuilding type training you were doing and then switching to body weight? What was the big change between those modalities?
Well, to put it simply, I was tired of feeling like shit. Like I was putting a lot of work in. And I just wasn't feeling it. Like I was strong, I had muscles, and like I looked okay and I was heavy, but I just felt horrible all the time when I wasn't training.
I see.
Got it.
It was just a grind without an end.
Yeah, a grind without an end. I was training just to train. Like my life outside of the gym wasn't really a life. My life was to go to the gym.
I see.
Understood. So, Mert mentioned something when I flipped the tables on him here a few weeks ago and interviewed him for the podcast. He mentioned that problem solving was what really kind of got him into developing the app and things like that. And with your background in general contracting and all the different technical stuff that you've done, I would venture to say there's a degree of problem solving in all of those things that you took on. And
Yeah.
I say that facetiously, meaning it's all problem solving.
It's all. Yeah,
So
yeah.
how has that informed your progression as a trainer? And is there an aspect of that in kettlebell training in particular that you've been able to capitalize on?
Well, yeah, that's my lens. That's how my brain works, is looking at how a thing's supposed to go, what's supposed to happen, and then finding out why it's not happening the way it's supposed to happen, and then fixing it.
Absolutely. So
That's
seems to be kind of a consistent theme with a lot of folks that problem solving aspect continues to come up. So I thought that was an interesting little tie in there. So that's interesting. You've mentioned a couple of times that previously good at the gym, not great at life, sort of things. Now do you feel like you're better at life, and where has that taken you? What does that mean when you say that?
Well, I just shared a post similar to this same subject just the other day, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot. That it's easy to get off track and start looking at an exercise like it's the thing, and then letting it feed and like serve me in my life to make my life better, as opposed to just letting my ego get inflated with a 1 rep max or hitting a goal or something, and it not making my life better. One of the metrics I use now is how much quality time I can spend with my daughter, who just turned 2 years old, and still being able to play with her and not worried about having to get a workout in or do anything else that's going to take me away from her time. And now the way that I train, I'm doing so much less with less time and getting so much more in my life out of it, like, and letting it serve me. Now, don't get me wrong, I do slip up sometimes where I get a little like into what I'm doing and I'm just all in on the workouts because it feels good. But just taking that time every once in a while to recenter and reevaluate priorities, to make sure that it's still serving its purpose.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a really good take on it, because a lot of people just take training as the end all be all of their life for a while, and then they just drop it if they're not professional in that field, and then it just becomes a phase in their life instead of something that improves their life.
Yeah, and something else I noticed is that when people start getting into training and they have someone always tell them how awesome they are because they're training, once they stop getting that "you're so awesome," they kind of stop doing it. Like it's like almost like they were doing it to get the attention, and once the attention stops, they stop.
Yeah.
But there's got to be like a deeper why, behind it.
No, absolutely. And I think that exercise in general falls into two classically, and the way I've been thinking about it recently, because if you look in specific to the US, if you look at how many people in the States actually exercise, it's not a big number.
No?
They say about 25% of the population has a gym membership, but we all know what that means. Not many people going to the gym, and because you get facilities that have 5,000 members, but they rely on the fact that a very small percentage of those members ever show up. So from a success standpoint, I would say the fitness industry is lacking some success. And because I think people look at fitness and they say, well, you work out for aesthetic reasons. Like you want to lose fat, you want to look a certain way, you want to go on a beach trip, you want to get ready for a wedding, or whatever the case may be. It's aesthetics, and there's none of that deeper meaning. Exercise is not serving their life to make them better at life. It's serving this one little finite goal, and then let's say you don't accomplish that goal. Well, now exercise is not a positive. And I think also interesting to think about for the people out there that might not be exercising consistently is if you, and I've done this with different people. So if you guys close your eyes, and I want you to say, not at the same time, but I want you to say the first thing that comes to mind when I say strong.
You go, Adam.
All right, so let's start over. So let's make it. I'm gonna close and then
3, 2, 1. Strong.
one arm, one leg push up.
Okay. Fit.
Oh, it's still gone.
Yep.
Bikini model.
Bikini model. Interesting.
Interesting.
Okay.
I did not expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Me neither.
I love it. But we would say both of those things are positive in your mind.
Honestly, I don't know where that bikini model thing came from, but when you said that word fit, that was the first thing that popped in my head was a bikini model, because that's the image of fitness.
Sure.
And-
Absolutely. But we would say that both of those have a more positive connotation for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mert?
Strong for me was deadlift. The first thing
Mm.
that popped into my mind, even visually, like the bar bending and the heavy deadlift.
Mhm.
And fit?
I just thought of a CrossFit box in my mind.
Mm.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, successful marketing on their part, right?
yeah.
So, for us, when we think of things like strong, fit, exercise, positive things come out, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, what about the person that was bullied by the athlete in high school?
Mhm.
What about the person who does have some body image issues and doesn't feel confident with how they move and doesn't feel like they can exercise? Or somebody had a bad experience at gym class, ended up getting made fun of or having a bad experience in gym class. For those kids that still have gym class, it can be a negative connotation. For us, like, you lived physically for a long time, Adam, where your ability to do your job was based on your strength and your fitness. My coming through wrestling and different things, for me, my physicality was always kind of a positive and an outlet, and something that did get me a little bit of, I was good at pull-ups, and I was a fairly strong kid. Was actually kind of out benching most of the football team when I was in high school, and so kind of got known as a little bit of a strong kid in high school. So for us, we think of these things, positive connotations. Might not be for a variety of folks out there. And so how do and I'm not expecting an answer in this podcast, but how do we crack that nut? Because that's what I think can eventually start to turn the tide, where people start looking at exercise as a positive and something that they should be doing to serve their life. And I love that phrasing, and I love the way that you put that. So not to go too far down the philosophical, cultural rabbit hole,
Yeah.
but I think it's an interesting thing to look at, because we're all in the field, we're all trying to encourage people to get involved in this, and to have exercise serve their life. But there's a massive percentage of the population that just doesn't.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm a trainer. Like, outside of my own, because my physical practice, I don't like mix the two. Like, my physical practice and the stuff that I'm doing, I don't apply that to the people that I'm training. The people that I want to work with are those very same people who were picked last, who never had the opportunity to really have anybody coach them and like show them how to do stuff. Maybe they didn't have an opportunity to crawl around a lot when they were a kid, or they're missing like a lot of developmental milestones. So when they get into a gym class, if they're our age or my age, you're a little bit older than me. If they didn't get in the gym class, if they didn't have that opportunity to play and like do things, they missed out on a lot on those developmental stages. And then now later in life, when they're need to be physical, they don't know how. And that's what we as coaches and trainers, in my eyes, should be focusing on, instead of just keeping people entertained for an hour a day, showing them how to use their bodies to improve their lives.
Yeah, and it's interesting from a fitness industry kind of standpoint, and as you mentioned, my advanced stage and number of years that I've put into this. You know, there was a time when fitness was very bodybuilding based. That's just what you did, unless you were specifically training some athletes, and even the athletes tended to train more like bodybuilders and everything.
Yeah.
Well, there came a trend where track coaches started becoming like very popular in the education portion of the fitness industry. And so track warm-ups started becoming, you know, more popular. And the track coaches are looking at the trainers going, you guys don't know this? Like, how else are you going to get ready to do something like you? This is how you do it. And so there was a switch and a trend towards more functional training, and it is that re-education, kind of physical re-education that we take people through in the fitness industry. Now, to your point, you take somebody that hasn't exercised in 20, 30 years, the last really physical thing they did was in high school. And now fast forward 20, 25 years, and now you have to physically kind of re-educate them. It is an interesting part of the being a trainer and being in the fitness industry.
And that's the fun part for me. But it goes back to that whole problem solving. Everybody's different, and there's no cookie cutter answer. Like, you know, for the same two people, it's like I have to see the person and what they're doing to know what they need at that specific moment and what's going to take them to each level.
Absolutely.
Except for hold on, like a really quick plug for Iron Cardio. That is one cookie cutter that does fit. that does fit a lot of people.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we'll go ahead and it's a free flowing conversation, but we'll go ahead and head that direction. When we started working together, you were going through some physical challenges that we could maybe talk about for a second, and then part of our work together was exposing you to and getting you started on the Iron Cardio protocol. So talk about that journey for yourself, and how you ended up using the protocol.
Yeah, it was I had to have a toe surgery. It was classified as hallux rigidus in my toe, but it ended up being like a chip of bone was broken off of a bone spur that was floating around in my toe joint, and my toe would get stuck in a dorsiflex position. It caused a lot of pain. Like I had to wear, and it was during COVID, so it wasn't classified as an emergency. So it took 3 months. It took 3 months of me being hard-headed and not wanting to get it looked at and thinking it would straighten out. And then another 3 months after I got it diagnosed and needing the surgery to actually get the surgery. And then in that time of I had to wear boots literally every day to keep my toe from flexing. So my toe was even more stuck in this position. And then I was having SI joint issues because my glute wasn't firing like at all, just from the way I was walking. And after toe surgery, when I needed to recover, I'm thinking like, who can I need help, because prior to that I was getting injured left and right, like just going too hard and trying to do too much too fast and not really looking at the orthopedic side. And I'm thinking like, who do I know that has an orthopedic background that isn't just like, you know, do these exercises and you'll be fixed. All right, Brett Jones. And I got a hold of you, and you had me go through some stuff and straighten out the SI joint when I was ready to do stuff on the toe. One thing I'm very grateful for is that right before the toe injury is when I was training for the SFB. I'm getting sidetracked a little bit. I was training for the SFB for my one-on-one leg push-up, and that's when it was getting to be a real problem because I had to put so much pressure on that toe. One thing I'm grateful for is that after I finished the surgery, I was planning on going right back to it, but you talked me out of it by saying that I should give it at least a year before putting pressure on that toe, so I don't end up back in that same situation again. If I didn't know that, I would have went right back to it, and I'd probably be right back getting surgery on this toe again for the same issues. But yeah, like you helped me recover. Great. Anyway, back on track to the iron cardio. Once I was ready to put pressure on the toe, I started with like I think a 20 kilogram with the iron cardio, and ran through it for about, I think, 3 months, from 20 to 24, and I had 1 day a week when I was using 32. But then I got a 36. I forgot what I planned on doing with that 36. When I pressed the 36, oh no, I was going to train for the SFG2, and I needed a half a body weight, and I got the 36. And I put that 36 up, having never put up the 36 before, without ever really even thinking about, training for it. I just cleaned it, pressed it, and it went up. And yeah, and I kept that strength, pressing that 36, just using iron cardio. What was it, 2-3 days a week?
Yeah.
I think it was 3 days. It was 2 days a week, and then I had a ballistic day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you mentioned a couple of things there. Just a little bit ago, you referred to it as like the cookie cutter program that actually does fit a lot of different people. It's kind of deceptively simple, right? Clean press squat, like set it down, shake it off. What do you mean? I'm not doing 10. I'm not doing, it's what. Was there a time when you were getting introduced to this where you were like, I'm not sure, man?
Yeah. yeah. I got extremely bored, like very fast. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm cleaning, I'm pressing, I'm squatting. All right, what do I do now that I'm waiting to not be tired? Like, like what do I do with my hands? Like, what do I do now? But after I started seeing results and got into like I use it as like a meditative type of thing to kind of just focus on the previous set, the next set, like walking through in my head how everything was going to go. And more recently, I get music involved and I dance on my cool down and have fun with it. But yeah, it was a good tool to use as like a meditative practice. And then you said something once about how iron cardio should feel like you're doing work, like you're at work. And I thought about back in the days when I used to build pools. One of the things we had to do is move like between 4 and 6 tons of sand. And you didn't move that sand by getting it all in the wheelbarrow at once. You had to shovel one shovel, put it in the wheelbarrow. Shovel the shovel, put it in the wheelbarrow. And like, I'm just thinking about that sometimes. I'm just like, all right, it's another shovel, another shovel, another shovel, another shovel. And if I got to do a snatch, that's like running the wheelbarrow down to where it needs to go.
Yeah,
I love it.
Brett always talks about treating it as manual labor, so exactly that.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said that, and I had that to draw from, like, yeah.
What I like doing when I'm doing iron cardio and waiting between the sets is I like to put on a lecture. It's a fairly dense lecture, like macroeconomics university level lecture, and be listening to that while I'm doing it. So I don't even realize what I'm doing, and it's much more of a free flow. It just occupies my mind so much that I can separate my body from, like, it's a
So is it something that you have to, like, is it something you have to really like focus on and pay attention to with those denser lectures? Like it kind of takes you out of the.
Yes, and that weirdly puts me in a meditative state, a trance-like state where I don't even realize it, what I'm doing, but it gives a more free flow and enjoyable flow to the whole workout for me.
I like that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how about you, Brett?
So yeah, the movement itself is the meditation for me. And a couple different things. The music, I do listen to music when I train, but it's definitely just background noise, distraction, really. And sometimes it's motivational. Like sometimes I'll be in a session and I need something with a little more oomph to it to get me, keep the workload going. But yeah, the practice itself, and then where I was going to ask both of you, like I've done sessions and then had to go back a year, 6 months to a year in my training log to find where I did that exact session because of all the different variations. So traveling twos and plus snatch and pull-ups and double bell, single bell, a bunch of different variations for anybody that's looked at the book and everything. How do you use those variations?
You want to go or you want me to go, Mark?
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. Right now I'm using one variation at the start of the week as my baseline for all the other stuff that I'm doing to build my conditioning. Because this fall and winter, I'm going to be doing a lot more hiking, and I'm using that one variation at the start of the week to see where I'm at. So that doesn't change. That's the one thing that I'm doing that's exactly the same. See if the number of reps that I'm doing in 20 minutes goes up or if it goes down. I know that I'm doing something right. Prior to that, I would literally do just random variations depending on how I felt that day. But now I'm getting more specific in my conditioning, so I just needed a steady baseline check every Monday.
I like it.
I'm using the classic with the 28 is my baseline.
Understood. I like it. Mert?
I initially started doing all the variations just to test them out. But like Adam, I settled on the exact same setup, actually. Classic with 28 kilos as my baseline. And I do like that 50% of the time, I would say. And then I do other variations pretty much randomly, depending on what I want to. If my legs feel really, really strong that day, I'll do a squat focused version. Or if I really want to do a lot of pull-ups, I'll do the pull-up version. But I'll always do the classic with 28 as my baseline, like Adam.
Yeah. Yep. And for clients I have, let's see, I have 3 different people running iron cardio. One of them I'm prepping for an SFG event in February. And we rescheduled from one that she was going to do in October. We were getting her ready for the snatch test. And now we switched back to iron cardio to just build her strength some more and build that conditioning to get a solid base. And then come December, we're going to go back into the snatch heavy stuff to get her ready for the snatch test. And another guy, he's just starting out, who wanted to learn how to blanking on the exercise. So clean and jerk. He wanted to do clean and jerks because he thought that that's what you do, to get strong without having to do snatches. And I'm like, well, I've got iron cardio, right? Because you don't have the shoulder mobility and you don't have the ankle mobility to do clean and jerks, but we can do iron cardio. And I have him he's at a weird spot with his heavy, to where he can't make it through a whole session with the 20, but he can when he alternates with the 20 and the 16. So we have an alternate day on the 20 and the 16, and we have the light day on the 16. And then some days he does a 14 because he has a 14. That's his ultra light day. But that's how we run his. And we just started using the snatch variation, the clean press, squat, and snatch.
Love it. And that's the adaptability, right?
Now, does he do any double bell work?
Because at home he only has space for one bell. So when we train together, I only do the one bell stuff with him and give him those variations. And rather than, because he has a 16 and a 14, rather than have him doing the 16 and the 14 on the odds, I want to get his proficiency up on just the one bell before we start using odds.
Yeah, that makes a lot of.
Yeah, I think, the alternating weights, the not that I've ever made this mistake, but I've heard of other people that have, as they progress, they start to delete certain weights from their repertoire. So I'll throw myself under the bus first and say that, I had been on really good progression and had really moved up to where the 36 was my main training weight, and visiting the 40, not doing a whole lot with the 32. Well, that ended exactly how you think that ended, with me being a little burned out and grumpy shoulder and some different stuff. So like keeping those variations in there, having those light days, using the alternate weights. It's progress isn't linear, and while you might start to visit different variations in weights, it's probably not someplace you need to live. So yeah, I think keeping all that in there is really, really smart.
Yep. Yeah, and he found that out with trying to press that 20, because I did his rep max test, and he did I think he did 5 with the 20, but just as the sets would go on, he would get weaker and weaker with that 20, and he was trying to push that 20 every time. And I'm like, bro, step back. Step back, and we'll visit this once a week, and you'll see your strength go up. It's been 3 or 4 weeks so far now, but yeah, like we're making some pretty good progress. He did, like we just met today actually. What was it? No, because we did the 16, because he just got back from traveling. He didn't sleep last night, but we did the 16. He did 34 rounds in 20 minutes with the 16. So that's a
Nice.
good, like a really good jump.
Definitely. And that's kind of it's a mental game with yourself, because what got him to the 5 or 6 RM at the 20 was the work with the 14 and 16. But the mental jump that happens is, I'm here now. Instead of going, what got me here is something I need to keep doing, because look where it got me.
I remember we had that same conversation when I pressed the 36. I'm like, now that I pressed the 36, I can use the 36 for my iron cardio now, right? And he just said, real simple, like, remember what got you to pressing that 36.
Absolutely. And I have to relearn that lesson multiple times. I think we all just kind of make those mental jumps in our training. So with the iron cardio and the app, how are you using it? I know there are sessions, and I'll speak openly and bluntly. There are sessions where I just don't want to have the phone involved. Right? Mentally, I don't need to go through the setup and that's just me mentally. That there are days where I have a limited amount of time. I have a limited amount of headspace. I just want to train and get on. But how are you using the app? And what has it kind of shown you?
Yeah, I go through the same thing where I don't want to use the app, and I also don't want to write anything down. I don't want to count. I just want to do, and then, but I know that doesn't work. I know that doesn't work. I need to track what I'm doing. So I have to, compromise with myself and use the app, because if I didn't, what happens is I hate counting. I absolutely hate counting reps, and I lose count when I'm doing the session, and I always forget where I'm at. One thing I do though is I record all my sessions so that I can go back and see, how I was performing that day compared to how I felt, and I would count then. But that takes a ton of time counting reps after the fact. Like I said, I hate counting. So I use the app just to count the reps and make sure that I'm staying on, so I can focus on just doing the work and focusing on my form and refining things. Yeah, that's and it keeps track of everything for me, so I don't have to write down everything that I did that day, how many reps I did. I love the fact that it takes into account the rep speed, and at the end of it, it tells you on what end of the spectrum you were working, whether you're working on the strength end or on the endurance end, or a good combination of the both, based off of your speed.
Awesome. Yeah, that's I have to thank Mert for that, because And Adam also, I know, uses some heart rate monitoring, and he tried to encourage me in
Just
that
doing the
direct.
box.
No,
Oh,
it's hanging here. It's hanging here.
It's
Uh,
it's an awesome piece of equipment, right?
Mhm.
To
Yeah.
have that data point to. We're
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
going to integrate that into the app very soon,
Mhm.
hopefully.
Yeah.
So you will be able to see your heart rate graph over your
Mhm.
training graph.
Yeah.
You'll be able to see your heart rate in each rep, each set.
all right. Well, that might get me to use the heart rate monitor more often.
Yeah. And,
Hopefully.
okay, so here's another. I mean, not that this is going to get you to use that heart rate monitor more, but this is just another point that that your mind can play tricks on you sometimes, where you feel like you should be doing more than what you're doing. But if you're looking at a number on the heart rate, it's like, all right, my heart rate is this. Don't do anything until it's this. You've got that solid, concrete, objective number to look at, so that that you're not pushing too hard. That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I use it, because I know I can't trust myself to to not go a little harder than I should.
Yeah,
Understood.
that's a common theme in a lot of people who really like training, who really like using their bodies. They tend to push their body until it breaks and then try to fix it.
Yeah.
Which we all do. I mean, as soon as I realized that I can do a clean, a press, and a squat in sequence with a 32, I started working exclusively with the 32 until I broke something in my scapula.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the mental jump that we all make, and it's just sometimes you got to touch the hot stove more than once.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a hard learner.
Well, twice. You got two hands. Or
That's
10 times. You got 10 fingers.
Wow, that's like 20 mistakes. I don't know if I can survive that. So kind of final thoughts and where you see where do you see yourself going, and how do you feel like things are progressing?
I mean, as far as what? I mean, that's a pretty
Well, I was
broad.
purposefully open. Let's specify it around your training. What's coming up? What are you going to be focusing on?
Well, I still have a one-arm, one-leg push-up to accomplish, which is, it's not at the forefront anymore because I had a timeline for it prior to the fall coming. But that's like the side quest, which is coming along. I'm not so worried about not hitting it, but that's the side quest. The main quest is just getting my conditioning up so I can go for longer hikes and start backpacking and overnight camping and stuff and not being wiped out. That's been my focus for this fall and early winter. And then come winter, it's back to more strength focus. But now it's conditioning.
Love it. Mert, where are you headed with your training?
I am currently in the process of fixing my scapula so that I don't hurt it anymore. I once dislodged it from where it's supposed to be when a 19-year-old wrestler slammed me on the ground in jiu-jitsu training. And ever since, it acts up sometimes. Now I've done two heavy sessions for my shoulder press, and now I'm paying for it, so I'm trying to fix that. After that, though, I think I want to be able to do very long and heavy sessions with iron cardio. That's what I want to be able to do, like 40-minute sessions without fading out for the full duration of the 40 minutes at my heavy weight with a less intense variation like the classic or a classic plus pull-up, and to be able to sustain that for 40 minutes, pace of 30 seconds per set.
Understood.
I want to add one more thing there. Another thing that I've been using a lot that's really benefited like how I feel daily is really getting into Indian club swings, which is completely like a non-strength intention. It's the opposite, but it's helped me kind of balance the two. It's helped me kind of balance the two between strength, conditioning, mobility, patience, breathing, relaxation, to really balance all that stuff. And when you said fixing your scapula, it just made me think another one of my big goals is to not get injured again at all, especially like during any training thing. Like, I don't think I should be getting hurt during training. Supposed to do the opposite to keep me from getting hurt in real life things. You know, and like that's the goal, to stay ahead of what life's going to throw at me, to be more resilient.
I am more and more injury averse as I'm getting older. Now I'm 36. When I was in my mid-20s, I didn't care if I was injured. I would just go pedal to the metal.
Everything healed just like that. Yeah.
But
like,
then as I get older,
toe.
and then it becomes a problem. It doesn't heal for months. Now I need to take better care of my body so I can do this for longer.
Absolutely. Health, George Hackenschmidt, health cannot be divorced from strength. Strength cannot be divorced from health. I forget which order he put it in, but to me, it means the same thing regardless of the order. And I don't know if I was the first person to say it, but the only place fitness comes before health is in the dictionary.
That's really good.
And if you're in pain and you're getting injured, you're not healthy. There's stuff going on. Now we all accumulate mileage. I like to joke that I am not a garage kept single owner that was only driven to church. I have been put some miles on the chassis. I've got some dings and things that I manage because that's life. So we all get to collect some scars and well, hopefully not. I mean, hopefully people listen to the cautionary tale that is my life and avoid some of these things. But we're all going to accumulate something, and so keeping the goal of being healthy. And I think that's one of the things about the protocol is it's so adaptable, and it's something that can work for a wide variety of people. So, Adam, final thoughts?
My cardio is great. It's an awesome cookie cutter. It's an awesome cookie cutter. If you are going to cookie cut something, scale your stuff with our cardio, but don't forget to let your exercise serve you instead of you serving it by feeding your ego. Because it's not going to last and you're going to have problems. I've gone through it myself.
Yeah,
I love that as a final thought, and I think that phrasing and having exercise serve your life is that, boy, if we could give the world that gift and get more people thinking that direction. So, Adam, I want to thank you for your time and all of your input today. And Mert, final thoughts?
I completely agree with Adam, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if anyone that's young that really wants to get strong as fast as possible, there is more years that you're going to live in that body. So try not to break it unnecessarily. It can be fixed, parts can be replaced, but there's a cost to it.
Patience is a virtue.
Sure. Thanks a lot to both of you for being here. It was a great talk. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. And I hope our listeners also will. Thank you today for joining us today, and see you in the next episode.
All right. Thanks for having me on. All right, guys. It was great seeing you.